please welcome our last panelist of the roundtable, Rui Coutinho. He's the Director of Asset Management at Infraestruturas de Portugal. Michael Bello is the Senior Expert and Key Account Nature Conservation at Deutsche Bahn. Paolo Alfonso is a Senior Project Management in Autostrade per l'Italia. And Cristobal Martinez is the Technical Solution Director of at Sintra, Servicios of Infrastructure in Spain. Unfortunately, Jose Conrado, who is representing the infrastructure of the infrastructure operator ADIF from Spain, cannot be with us due to a last minute issue. So, all of you, welcome. Let me start about asking you some elements about extreme events. I mean, during this the different presentations, we have heard about extreme events, but I would like to have a tangible example. Maybe you can describe an extreme event from the nature of man-made that have happened during the last years in your network. I mean, how you have faced, have tackled the problem, which are the consequences, the reactions, the lesson learned. So maybe I can start with you, Michael.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And I'm happy to be here. Yeah, to bring in some examples. One has already shown, which was the flooding in the year 2013. And you might remember the flood we have had last year in summer, which destroyed a whole railway line in the Ahrtal, for example. And actually, the reconstruction is going on. It's not finished yet. The costs were estimated about 1.3 billion of euros for whole constructing. Yeah, and lessons learned concerning flooding is a very difficult issue, I would say, because we are facing different challenges. One is the immediate track area for which we are responsible, where we are looking what we can do in this place. But on the other hand, we have responsibilities from other sides, and therefore the example in the Ahrtal last year is a quite good example, because if you if the flood which was running through the whole valley wasn't only was not how to say, it's a flood which was coming from another area where we were not responsible. We had some areas where water was collected and it was merged in the valley. So our options to react on such a flooding are very, very limited, I would like to say, in this case.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And talking about floodings, maybe Paolo could provide some explanation. I know that
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't know if you hear me. Actually, Jose, it's been freezed. I don't know if it's just my problem or it's everyone's problem.
Yeah, Paolo. No, not your problem. It's Jose. Okay. You might continue.
Anyway, it's a pleasure to meet you and to be here and to represent Autostrade per l'Italia in this context. Actually, in the last year, we approached the resilience problem for infrastructure, agri in the specifics, from a different point of view. Actually, we increased and we made a radical turnaround in the periodical surveillance, meaning that we have a new manual for inspection of bridges that has a specific focus on everything that hydrogeological items can bring to the infrastructure. So actually, we have a strategy that summarizes the contribution of a specialized inspector that has to go to visit the structure every 3 months and once a year with an accurate on an accurate basis. And then we are starting to prioritize the infrastructure for the installation of structural and monitoring health system with a specific focus on geotechnical and hydrogeological bridge items in all of it in a more broad strategy of prioritizing all the 1971 bridges that we have on the highway, and the prioritization for intervention, the strategy of intervention in order to maximize the resources and minimize the impact on traffic.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Rui, I think that you have an important role, or your organization, because you manage both roads and railways. In addition, you are the manager of this 25th of April Lisbon Bridge that any of us have the opportunity to see in live or in the television. What's about the management operation and some examples of extreme event that has happened in the Portuguese network in the last years?
Of course, thank you for your question, Jose. And in fact, I'm delighted to be here joining the event and the project as well. And I'll share, of course, some ideas, surely some common challenges that we have, and that we have as infrastructure managers. All of us, we are addressing these extreme nature and human-made events that are becoming less rare, in fact, and increasingly powerful and more sophisticated. And yes, in fact, in the past few years, we have been challenged with just that. We had almost all of them, extreme floodings affecting bridges, our rail tracks, our road pavements, violent storms with strong winds affecting our catenaries, our bridges as well. Of course, you know, the forest fires that, especially in summer, but not only summer, they can disrupt completely our roads and our rail networks. And this is coming out from an extreme drought that is affecting the southern Europe. In Portugal, for instance, right now we are missing rain for almost 2 months. So you can imagine what's going on with the severe drought that we are experiencing. So how do we see infrastructure resilience? Of course, as the first layer, we also intend to always continue to operating under these extreme conditions. But sometimes these extreme circumstances, of course, they impose the disruption of our service. And the question is about how fast can we recover from that disruption, taking consideration that sometimes we might have destruction of some assets, or maybe they remain intact, of course. And we have examples of high resilience, such as the Leslie storm that affected us in 2018. There was a lot of winds, a lot of rain, a lot of damage, in fact, at the Portuguese central coastal areas. But in fact, there was a demonstration of huge resilience, because our main national roads and rail continued operating with just a short period of time for some closure for some bridges, just for safety concerns, with no relevant destruction in our network. And we have a different example. And the year before, in 2017, we had some huge forest fires with enormous proportions along all the central area of Portugal, an enormous area affected, and that disruption and disaster led us mourning 66 dead, most of them using our national road network. Of course, a lot of learning, a lot of discussion came out from that, and of course we have learned not only about vegetation control, because from some levels of forest fires and wildfires, there's no limit for those fires. They can have leaps of 500 meters, of almost 1 kilometer of leap of the fire. So there's no vegetation control that you can assess, but mostly you can, of course, assess some exploitation process to avoid those some roads to be operating during wildfires. Of course, we learned a lot from that.
And actually, the fires is an issue common to the south of Europe during the summertime. And you mentioned during the presentation on your explanation an interesting element is the recovery. I mean, it's not only how do we anticipate to those extreme events, but how fast we recover. We will go to that topic later. Cristobal, you are working for a global company. You have motorways all around the world, and maybe you can provide us as well some extreme events, some examples that happen in different regions of the world.
You're right. Hello, everybody. Well, I think the most relevant highways we have around the world regarding the special climate events are located in North America. First of all, we have the 407 ETR in the Greater Toronto area. It's very well known that the conditions there are facing very hot winter conditions. But in that case, I think it's more or less acceptable because it's a very regular phenomenon. On the other hand, in Texas, we have a very peculiar effect. As you know, in Texas, everything is big. And considering this phenomenon, I think it's really relevant. Is what it's called the freezing rain. When the humid air from the Gulf face a very cold air from the north, continental air from the north, creates what is known the freezing rain. Everything in a sudden effect is completely freezing, and it's a real dangerous situation. And the only response we have to face this effect is to define what are the main drivers to know when this phenomenon will occur, and on the other hand, to try to prevent the entrance of drivers on the affected areas. This is a very typical effect that occurs, I think, at least twice a year, but you have to be really ready to face this situation. And the only reaction is to avoid the entrance of new drivers on the affected area. And once you have control the situation, try to remove the ice from the carriageway. But it's a curious situation.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So I see that there are extreme events all around the world, both in railways and roads. And I believe that your organizations have developed different tools to improve the resilience, even though now the challenges are becoming bigger and bigger, not only because of the climate change, but as well because other threats coming from the new technologies. Michael, how do you deal with that in Deutsche Bahn? Which current tools are you using right now to improve the resilience of your network?
Yeah, so we have different kind of tools to deal with this issue. The most important one, I would say, are GIS systems for the planning process to producing hazard and risk mapping. I think this is the most important point, or I would say the first step. You should start to develop a kind of resilient management. That's what we are conducting at the moment. And we also have tools where we, collect all the damages, for example, measuring time of interruption, for example, measuring costs which are related to different damages. Or at least it should be my task at the moment to collect all those data, bring it together in one line for the whole company to develop a strategy and resilient management, which should be linked to all the different business units, because I'm not only responsible for infrastructure, I have to look for the infrastructure of electricity, I have to look for the transport, for the carriers and such things as well. Therefore, I have to collect all the data to develop, I think, a kind of own tool for providing a resilient management in the near future. Because so far, we have just started a cooperation with the Potsdam Institute of Climate Impact Research, where we have set up a first set of parameters which we are looking at. But I think this has to be developed, modified in the near future to become a more broader picture with concrete information.
No, indeed, data is quite important, especially if you know how to manage that data and you can use to minimize the impact of future extreme events. I'm interested in Rui. You are, as a manager of roads and railways, are you using the same tools to improve the resilience for both modes of transport? There is any kind of good practices that can be exchanged?
Yes, sure, of course. I would say, first of all, that we have a lot of integrated tools in one hand. On the other hand, we are a quite recent company. This integration came out 6 years ago. So of course, we were very traditional companies, separated companies that merged together into one company. It's not everything done yet, but some room to do. And of course, we also have some specificities of each of the kind of infrastructures. So I would say that at least as the asset management point of view, that is at the core center, in fact, of our decision making globally at the company, both for roads and for rails. And we do take into consideration three main pillars, I would say: infrastructure condition, risk assessment and sensibility, and also a third pillar of investment and maintenance. The main concept is based in the idea that it's not just about what the infrastructure is. It's also about, or mainly, what infrastructure does. This is a challenge most of the times to an engineer's traditional standard mindset, I would say. But if you can take this concept to the company's culture, what happens is that kind of organically our business process focus aligns with resilience, but as well as, of course, as effectiveness and users benefit, which is also one of our main issues. Of course, we have several examples coming out from these asset management approaches to resilience, but not only focus on resilience. We use a bridges management system to support all our activities, and why not take care of our bridges, from inventory to repairs to reinforcement or replacement. At the foundation of this system, we have inspections. We have our own teams of skilled professionals directly responsible for those inspections, but sometimes it's also necessary to collect more data, and then we take sensors in order to have more frequency data, and we can implement special monitoring systems. Of course, this is not standard. We have some bridges and the special monitoring systems. I would say about 20 bridges. We think that it's worthwhile to have this kind of issue developed. And usually we monitor several structural condition parameters affecting resilience, such as corrosion, deformations, and also dynamic parameters such as extensions, rotations, precision level, whatever it might be needed for that. In fact, I would say we have a huge array of monitoring systems for a variety of critical assets that are mostly vulnerable from one side or might have a very relevant impact from the other side. This is always related to inspections, coming from road pavements to railway tracks, as well as bridges, just as I told you. And for some others, we are just starting a journey. I'd like to to talk to you very quickly about what we are in the verge of making real for our slopes containing structures management system. This is common as for roads and for rails as well. Just as we did for bridges, which we are doing the same system typically for the bridges being road over rail bridges as well. And this system will support our activities managing something over 23,000 containing structure. This is an investment for this system for about 5 million euros, which is undergoing at this time, and among other features will provide Infraestruturas Portugal with a business support application, including inventory asset register. And I could set other examples, such as using the satellite monitoring to our infrastructure. During current year, we are undergoing with an assessment at this time to use the satellite capabilities under the Copernicus Sentinel satellites. We are willing to use open data coming from this program of the European Space Agency to develop our land monitoring system, including all the detection of surface movements with an accuracy of just a few millimeters per year. And we think it can provide an accurate tool to monitoring our land subsidence, structural damage, underground construction going on, and of course improve our safety and reduce any economic loss. These are just a few examples.
Yeah, that's a good element. You have mentioned as well about different tools that some of them are quite new. My next question to Cristóbal and to Paolo, focusing on the road infrastructure. I mean, now we are in a, let's say, like in a moving society, and we are part of this digitalization and the use of new technologies that is impacting in our daily life. Even though for having this conference doing digital, maybe a few years ago it was not possible. So what's about the impact of the new technologies in your work, Cristóbal, Paolo? How the resilience or to improve the resilience of the infrastructure can be improved through these new technologies?
I'll lead the way to Cristóbal first.
I was on mute, sorry. Well, I think more things that we have implemented in our highways have been already described by Rui. I think this is a typical way to approach this challenge. First of all, it's of primary importance to have an updated asset management system, and to procure wherever forecast tool, you have to fit these tools with a lot of different database. You have to collect wherever data that could be explored in a logical and productive manner. In that sense, it's said in the questionnaire, new technologies that can incorporate new trends, and I think the artificial intelligence is one of the path that right now we are following, trying to not to define a specific algorithm based on existing data and existing patterns, but also exploring these new technologies that are using this new trend of artificial intelligence. First of all, you have to define all the critical elements in your highways that you have included in your records in your asset management system. But on top of that, you have to maintain all these database completely updated. Once you have updated all this information, if it's possible to do that in real time, it's the better way, is the best way. So you have to implement other sophisticated tools as the artificial intelligence procures. I finished, Paolo.
Thank you. As far as Autostrade, we established this year for the first year a new bridge management system that we developed together in partnership with the IBM, with our tech company Movion, and we digitalized all the main bridges of the Autostrade network, and we are carrying on database all the data that we hope in the future can help us to provide a maintenance strategy optimized. We started with the surveillance and the inspection that we carry on. Then we are performing an assessment on any one of the single structure. So we are making a new point zero, and we hope all the data have to be processed by the new system in order to create a database that can provide us the information for us to make the right decision. At the moment, we say the big challenge is to create in a single platform, put together all the data all of us we already have that are distributed on different systems. I think that's the main goal for the moment, because all of us, we have a lot of data, but we don't use them together. We use us on separate way. And we think the future of it is create an effective and efficient way to put together different data, make comparison, have an analysis, and then have the right decisions.
Okay, thank you, Paolo. We are running out of time. I'm gonna ask one last question and just give me a few words. What is the FORESEE result that you consider the most effective to minimize the impact of natural and man-made extreme events in the future? Michael?
Yeah, maybe I repeat it once more because I mentioned it already. We focus first on risk and hazard mapping, which is the most important step, I think, to start to set up a resilient management. You need to know where you have which kind of asset, which threshold, which asset has to fulfill actually and in the future due to climate change.
Cristobal?
Probably the governance module, that is the concentrator of all the rest of modules, and is the collecting tool in order to have a global vision of all risks that you are managing.
Yeah, and it has a very horizontal approach that covers all the elements. Rui, what's about you?
That's it.
Well, for us, we tested, of course, a very specific asset with a huge bridge, a very specific bridge. Of course, I would stress the benefit coming out from the learnings regarding our emergency safety procedures improvement that we just had. There's a lot of possibilities that we just learned. This came out from the discussions with our peers. So I would like to stress as well the fact that global cooperation is quite relevant, that the learnings don't rely just with those having the hazards and not being shared with others. Of course, we improved very much our risk perception as well as the ideas coming out from human behavior during and after the accidents. And I'd like also to stress the framework of 54 KPIs that was developed specifically for us that can be, well, inspirational for other kind of assets, and we are surely willing to use that. Thank you.
Thank you. Paolo, what about?
I will repeat myself. I will say knowledge and integration of data is the main goal we have at the moment. We have to know better our structures. We have to be aware of the risk and then create on that, build on that our strategy and perform what we have and optimize our resources.
Thank you. Thank you to the four of you. Thank you, Infraestructura de Portugal, Deutsche Bahn, Autostrade, and Sintra for being here with us. We are running out of time, and let me go to our last panelist for the closing remarks. And it's a very special panel because he has been following, he has been monitoring the work of FORESEE is Mr. Sergio Escriva. He works at the CENEA Executive Agency. Sergio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jose, and thank you to all the panelists and of course to all the audience attending this event. I have been honored to be your counterpart in the European Commission for the implementation of this project. And yes, today it was a very intense day of presentations in which you have covered the why, the what, and how improve infrastructure resilience. Starting from the why, we all know the extreme events are more and more frequent due to climate change, but also human-related actions. For example, cyber attacks. Every cut in the mobility has enormous socioeconomic impact, and the why comes from a societal need. So people perceive mobility as a right, the same as internet. They simply don't understand why a highway or certain railway line is good for days or even for hours. They are used to have resilient transport systems, both for passenger and for goods. So public authorities have the responsibility to ensure that there is a continuity of mobility services, and that is why the resilience is embedded in the whole policy and regulatory framework. What we understand by resilience, Project FORESEE has contributed to define resilience and how to measure it in practice. The project has defined indicators and targets to improve resilience against extreme events, covering societal, economic aspects, also performance in terms of level of service targets. And it's important that it has been approached through a systematic and consistent manner. A great achievement is the establishment of the SEN Workshop Agreement, the guidelines for the assessment of resilience of transport infrastructure is certainly a starting point for a future standard on how to address and how to improve infrastructure resilience. And then the third pillar is how the project has contributed to understanding and improving resilience of transport infrastructures through the progress on a state-of-the-art. This is a research innovation project that has just finished, in which you have produced advances in the methodology to assess resilience of transport infrastructures, also methods to anticipate and to predict hazards and risks, integration of resilience schemes as well in transport infrastructure life cycle, and also you have proposed governance methods to improve public procurement process, taking into account resilience as well in the procurement process. You have also suggested innovative solutions to increase the resilience of existing infrastructures. This is essential. The majority of the transport infrastructure is already built, so we really need to adapt it to increasing climate challenges. For example, the slope stabilization systems, the permeable asphalt pavements, and also the traffic management and decision support systems to react during extreme events have made an important contribution to improve resilience. And all these technologies validated in 6 case studies covering roads and railways, covering urban and interurban networks. So really having a comprehensive approach on how to implement these tools into the real world. The project that is going to finish in a couple of weeks started back in September 2018 with 18 partners, which included research, academia, industry, public sector, but the impact has reached beyond that. A small group of 18 members has reached a bigger audience through the stakeholder reference group, which I want to also acknowledge the excellent work done there. With 5 million euros budget, certainly this is just the starting point for the deployment of the result that you have achieved in a wider context. CENEA, the agency CENEA, is proud of the results of this project, and the proof of that is that today, at this moment, this project is being mentioned by our director, Mr. Dick Beckers, at the European conference about decarbonizing mobility, the future of transport infrastructure financing that is celebrated in Paris and is one side event of the French presidency of the Council of the European Union. The project has reached its end. It's a research project, as I said. Now it comes the most difficult part of the way, is the belly of days of research projects, how to fill the gap between research and deployment. I'm happy to see that you have been already in contact with many public authorities, many infrastructure managers through the consortium and also through the stakeholder group. If you are looking for opportunities to keep on working together on these technologies to reach the necessary level of maturity, I encourage you to look at the opportunities for funding in the CEF program. This is the biggest program we manage in our agency with 33.7 billion euros for transport, energy, and digital infrastructure in the framework program from 2021 to 2027. It deals mainly with completion and modernization of the TEN-T network. Completion is about the core and comprehensive network, but in the modernization pillar, we have special funding lines for smart and interoperable mobility, sustainable and multimodal mobility, and what is important for your case is the pillar on safe and secure mobility. It's very much about resilience. The first call in 2021 has just closed. It's a bit late for that one, but it had a budget of 250 million euros to dedicate to studies and works related to improvement of transport infrastructure resilience, in particular to climate change and natural disasters through infrastructure upgrades and also a smart monitoring system. So it's certainly a good fit for FORESEE developments. But this call will happen every year. So in September 2022, there will be a new open call in which you will also identify that pillar about resilience. I really encourage you to look at it, to look for your partners and to continue the way that you have started in this FORESEE project. So I finish here my intervention saying just to you, congratulations for the results achieved. I look forward to apply and to continue looking for improving the tools that you have developed. And a big thank to everybody who participated, who supported the project, even without funding. I'm aware of that. I hope this discussion, this group that you have created with this project, keep on working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. Thank you for that knowledge. And on behalf of the entire consortium, we have to say that we are very glad to have contributed with our effort to move a bit further than 3.5 years ago when we started this project. Just the last word, let me thank to you and to the 21 panelists that have contributed to this conference. We went beyond the time, but I think it was worthy. It has just started. This is not the end. We'll have more opportunities to meet each other, to continue working, and we are looking forward to that. In the meanwhile, please visit our website. You will have all the documents uploaded soon. As well, we have different channels in social media, so don't hesitate to contact us. That's all from my side. Thank you very much. Stay safe.